Oh man, we're talking about kids. Kids learn from us. They learn from our mistakes, which as parents we do a lot. But hopefully they learn from our knowledge and information that we can give them from mistakes that we've made. But not only do kids learn from us, but we learn from our kids. I love we do family dinners. I love family dinners. I love when we're all together. We always have a great time. We laugh, and during the week we're running different directions with school and Zoom school and working and just everything that's going on. But the other day we're all sitting down in the living room, and I learned from my kids. And I'm going to tell you something right now. I have good kids. I love my kids. Now, I don't have good kids just because me and my wife say, we have good kids. We have good kids because they do things that you sit back and go, wow, that's impressive. And we have other parents that say, your kids are really good. You have good kids. And that's when you stop for just a minute and give yourself a quick pat on the back. Not very long, but just quick pat. Now, don't get me wrong. My kids are like everybody else. They do things that make you think, who are you? And where did you come from? And they make you just want to, hug them, if you understand. But we're having a discussion the other day in the living room, and I learned something in regards to race. I'm a child of the 70s. I understand racism, saw racism, still dealing with racism. Of course, racism is a hot button topic. But I'm not going to talk about it from the perspective that most people do. I'm going to talk about it from what I'm noticing personally with my kids. So when you look at my kids and you look at their friends, I look at it as it's like the United Nations. I mean, it's like you look at them and they have friends. They're all together, whites, blacks, kids from other parts of the country that have transferred here. And the thing about it with my kids and their friends, they're just friends. They're just people. They laugh together. We go places together. They stay at each other's houses. I mean, our place has been full with their friends running in and out and just having a good time and acting crazy and just doing what kids do, what kids should be doing. There's never a discussion about race. No discussion about race between them. There's no discussion of race between their parents and us. None of that. But when they go to school, inside their classroom, race must become an issue, which leads me to say race becomes an issue when we allow it to be. Race becomes an issue when we allow it to be. So if something comes up in a topic of discussion when they're dealing with the current events of the day, my kids have told me that the school counselor then has to pop in their class, and it has to become a full-blown discussion. Which I find interesting that here are these kids growing up with ideals and ideas and standards and convictions, and they don't make race an issue. But when they go to school, it becomes an issue. Something wrong with that? You tell me. The other thing that I find interesting is I said to my kids, I said, well, are there any kids at all that make race an issue? And they said, of course there are kids. We don't hang out with them, but when it comes up, I said, what do you guys do? They said, we don't get involved in it. We let it go. We walk away. We don't get involved in it. Race becomes an issue when we allow it to be. My oldest son, who's in college, at least the last time I talked to him, he was in college. He's big Mr. Independent on his own now. But he, as a kid, growing up with autism, was bullied. He was bullied by kids all the time. We lived, and this is just solely for purposes of this conversation, we lived in a majority of black community. And so it was black kids that were picking on him. Not to offend anybody, that's just how it was. That doesn't mean that other kids didn't pick on him. They did, but just because of where we lived. Now, I say that to say this. His best friend was a black kid. I don't like using colors, but for purposes of this conversation, I will use it so that you understand. But people that know me know I just refer to people as people. But he did not allow the fact that he was being bullied by a group of kids that happened to be a certain race. He didn't allow that to enter in to his best friend, because that was his friend. Color was not an issue. But going back into the classroom, it has to be discussed, and it must be made an issue. Again, it becomes an issue when we allow it to become an issue. So in life, they're living and there's no problem, but the school says no.